Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the jungle. I am your host, Hamilton Winters, strategist with Liger Partners, and I am so excited today to bring you a conversation with my now good friend, Brookelyn Kelly. Brookelyn, how's it going?
So good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well.
Now?
Yeah, I mean, after a phone call like we had today, I would assume that we just refer to each other as friends. If that's cool with you. Awesome.
Oh,
I mean,
always.
Well, now we're on a podcast together, so we might as well be friends. So I know how cool you are just after our conversation, but I want everybody else to know how cool you are. So why don't you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and kind of how you got there, and we'll take it from there.
Well, that's like a really difficult question to answer.
No.
Currently, I run a really beautiful tattoo shop in Burlington, Vermont. It's like a therapeutic, boutique, witchy kind of tattoo shop. So a little bit different. It's the third shop that I've run. So it's been really interesting to get to here to where I can just move across the country and know that I can open a tattoo shop somewhere.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't really know how to answer that. There's like so many things and I don't know which ones you want to get into. So I'm here right now. I did my apprenticeship in Burlington, Vermont 10 years ago. So that's why I had the opportunity to come back here now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to start with kind of your background, right? And how you got into all this. So you were a model at one point in time, correct?
Yes.
And
that's a whole weird industry.
That's totally different. But what you told me today is that you got into tattoos before you even got into modeling. And how did that all work?
So I wanted to be an actor growing up, and I'm like 5'10" or 5'11", and that's just too tall to be an actress. But it's like exactly the right height to be a model. So I kind of wanted to, and then I randomly moved to Burlington, Vermont to help out my best friend at the time. And just happened into the opportunity to learn how to tattoo. Like I got in the door really randomly and like had no intention to learn how to tattoo when I moved here. And so I did that for a year and a half and I loved it. And then I moved to Utah to be closer to like friends and family. Like I hadn't meant to move to Vermont and live here forever. So I moved back out west and I didn't have any tattoos at the time. And it was not well received at all by anyone. So I had a lot of really, really negative, aggressive experiences with other tattoo artists and tattoo shops until I felt like I just couldn't keep doing it. And I had the opportunity to move to New York and moved out there and modeled and did some acting out there. And after 3 years of doing that, I just realized that I love tattooing and I love like the connection that you get to have with people. And I really don't know any other job that's even close to like it, where you just spend, 7 or 8 hours one-on-one in physical contact, talking to somebody that you might never see again, just in depth about their life. So it's a really special job and I wanted to get back into it. So I left New York and forged my way here.
I love it. There's a lot in that. I want to unpack that.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I don't know how to answer your question.
That's exactly where I wanted to start. To unpack that, I have never thought of a tattoo artist being one of the most personal jobs that there is.
It is. It really
it's more personal than your psychiatrist. It's more personal than your doctor. It is. It's incredible because you're with somebody one-on-one for hours on end, and when they leave you, you go with them.
Yeah.
Your art literally goes with them forever.
It's so important for tattoo artists to understand that because it's a really casual industry in a lot of ways. And like, there's not a lot of rules. So who knows what people are instilled with when they get into it. But a lot of people really are not instilled with the sense of importance that like people come to you when their child died, when their abusive marriage ends. Like, there's so many reasons that people come to you and they're just like, here's my body, change it forever to represent me.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really interesting, special job.
Yeah, of course. No, that's incredible. So I don't, it's kind of in my mind like cutting hair. How do you do it for the first time? How do you decide that this is something you want to do, or almost like a surgeon?
Yeah.
Does the person that is letting you operate on them know that it's your first tattoo to ever give? I mean, do you do it on yourself first? Because I've seen you do some stories on Instagram of you self tattooing, which I was just talking to Isaac. I don't know if there's a person, maybe you now, that I would trust to tattoo my body. I dang sure wouldn't trust me to tattoo my body. So, I mean, where do you start with that? It's incredible. How do you even know you have this? Does it start with art? I mean, you tell me.
So everybody has a really different way of getting into this industry. Like,
Hmm.
it's so varied. There's no standardization of it.
Yeah.
So everyone's experience is really different. And I've always, especially after leaving the shop that I had my apprenticeship at, I've always
Hmm.
been very grateful for the apprenticeship that I got to have, because I've heard a lot of horror stories of just like really abusive practices in so many different ways. And there's a lot of like aggression and assertion that if you want to learn how to tattoo, you must be heavily tattooed to prove that you're invested in this. But there
That's
are many
interesting.
tattoo shops that take on apprentices knowing that they're never going to make it, or that they're not well suited for this. They might only be
Mm,
here for 2 or 3 months, but just encourage them to get blasted. And it's like, that's a ton of like 19, 20 or so year olds just like thinking, oh, this is going to be my life and whatever. And then it doesn't work out. It's a really, really
yeah.
challenging industry. It's not for everyone. There's a lot of aspects that people don't even really consider, like the social
Hmm.
aspect of this job. It's very, very people, human oriented. If you don't like people, you might not like this art form. And
Yeah.
it's not just like a personal art form, like drawing on paper or painting. It's for it's their tattoo 100% of the time. Like, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to them. And there's a lot of people who
Okay. It looks like we might have lost you there for just a second. We've been having
I'm so
some technical.
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I know you're operating out of your shop, so not necessarily ideal situation here, but we got you back now. What you were saying
Yeah.
is it that it goes with you. It's personal, and I mean,
And
just pick up
permanent.
there. It's permanent.
It's permanent. And so many people don't even really understand that concept. There's a lot of like, you only live once kind of mindset. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's cool or whatever when you're in your 20s, but when you're 40, you might not want this anymore, and
Yeah.
you might not have even gotten it because you wanted it, but because like other people around you pressured you to get it, or to get it this
Yeah.
big, or to get it this dark, or this whatever. And it's like, so many people don't really understand how much power they're supposed to have in getting a tattoo, that like,
Hmm.
if your tattoo artist can't be bothered to move the stencil for you because you want it in a different place, you should not be letting that person tattoo you. But
Yeah.
all the time I tattoo people, and I'll ask if they like where it is, and this will happen sometimes where they'll look at it and be like, mm, yeah, that's fine. And it's like, we can
That's
move
not the
it if
answer I
you
want.
want. That's totally, we can totally move it. It's really not a big deal. And
Oh,
I'm like, no, 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 no. It's fine. Like, they don't want to bother you, or they've been told that you can't move it, or different things like that. And it's like, it's forever. Do you want to look at it forever and think, God, I just wish it was like 2 inches over. Like, I feel like it's really crooked, but
mm,
the guy said it was straight, so it's fine. Is it? Is it fine?
yeah. It might be fine today, but I mean, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
you might not always feel that way. And there's like, tattoos in so many places are so cheap that it's like,
Yeah.
what else can you buy for $60 that you can put on your neck and ruin your life? You know, there's a lot of just there's a lot of people in the industry who, because they allowed to launch, they don't really think about the impact that maybe other people have, and how much impact it will have in their lives. So it's a really interesting industry because it's such a beautiful, powerful job, but it's a really powerful job. And if you're not even aware that you're wielding like somebody's future potentially, then it matters a lot. So I was really lucky to get to learn from people who just were really good about instilling this sense of respect and importance in what you're doing, and how like you won't remember everybody that you tattoo, but they will all remember the time you tattooed them.
100%. And I have all these questions that I know the viewers are thinking about as well, which is the power that's invested in you, because there are no regulations here, right? There's no governing body for tattoo artists. Is there a certification?
No, it's terrifyingly unregulated. Even people that think it is, like there's a certificate on the wall from the health department, and it's like, yeah, so maybe that place got inspected once. They're rarely, depending on the state especially, they're rarely maintained. So who even knows what artists worked here when this was properly inspected, or what's happened between then, or what the regulations required even are for them to pass the inspection. I spoke to the health inspector here when we got this shop set up, just about struggles with the industry standards. And he said that as a health inspector, it's frustrating because if they pass all the things on the list, even if there's other factors that make you not want to give them a license, you're supposed to give them a license because they did everything on the checklist. So he said that he'd just given a license to a shop where everything in the shop looked fine, but he was like, but the owner was disgusting. Like he looked car, like his hands are just deeply I don't know why it keeps trying to get onto the other network.
No, you're good.
His fingers were just like deeply embedded with just like grime, and there's nothing on there that says the tattoo artist has to be clean. And I've worked briefly in shops where there are gross people, and they'll give you infections because their gross body is on top of your open wound for hours, and there's no rule against that technically, and that's crazy.
And these are the things that someone like me, I just don't think about on a daily basis.
No, right? Even sometimes people will come in here, very, very rarely, but people will think that they're checking up on the safety of the space. So they'll say, do you use new needles? And it's like, yes, but just so you know, any place that doesn't would never say, no, we don't.
Of course,
and dirty needles are not the only thing you have to worry about. Like I could say, yeah, of course I use clean needles, but then do like my setup for the tattoo with my bare hands and only wear one pair of gloves the whole thing, and then tear it all down with my bare hands. And it's like, if you don't know that those are bad things to see, then it's fine. That's just how it is. And so people get this normalized sense of like very, very, very low expectations. Like as long as your tattoo artist is not openly abusive to you, some people are like, man, they're great. And it's like, they'll tell me more in-depth things about what happened. And it's like, God, that doesn't sound great. That sounds awful. No. And they're like, I mean, I felt really uncomfortable and unsafe, but I mean, it was fine. It was fine. And they don't know that that's not fine. You should not feel unclean or unsafe or unheard while getting a tattoo. It's so important. And so many people just, if the first time you see somebody get a tattoo is like at a house party or, some like grungy street shop, then you don't know any different. And you look online, the internet's like a gross, weird place of anyone can put anything. So how helpful is that? Who wrote that, People come in all the time. It's their first tattoo. So I prepared. I read how to take care of it afterwards. And like, no,
they're an online expert.
Like the 90s.
Yeah.
Sorry. What?
They're an online expert. They did a Google search. They know all there is to know about it.
But they really they don't know that they don't even think about the fact that, just because you read it somewhere, who wrote it? Where did you get that information from? Because there's a lot of people saying a lot of things. They don't know what they're talking about. There are plenty of experts who don't know what they're talking about. So is very complicated, and there's just like a lot of basic things that people really don't understand. And it's awesome to be a tattoo artist and get to gently tell everybody how to be safe in this industry.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And just so everybody knows, we're fielding live questions right now. So if you have a question for Brooke, send them in. Isaac will shoot me the comment, and then I'll be able to ask. But one question that I have for you right now is, say you have somebody like me that walks in. I don't have a single tattoo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's late at night, and I'm like, I've got to get something tattooed on my face. Is there any sort of like, are you sure about that? I mean, talking someone out of doing business with you. I mean, I can only imagine that in your industry, it's not like a haircut. Like, I want it all shaved off.
Yeah, no, it's not at all.
It will grow back. This is totally different.
Yep.
This is, do you look at somebody and question their judgment?
Yeah, it doesn't happen to me a whole lot, just because the space that I make for like the shop that I have doesn't really attract a lot of that. So people don't usually come to me.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. But there have been times where people, and I never get to a point where they try to follow through, so I have to really like push them out of it. But sometimes you talk to people and you do have to have conversations with them about how this will affect your life. And I remember when I was an apprentice, my mentor, this man came in, and sorry about the language, but he wanted to get fuck bitches over his eyebrows, and there were two girls with him. And it was like 8:00 at night. They're not drunk. And that's what he wants to get. And these two girls are with him saying, I know, so awful. So the owner of the shop and my mentor talked to this guy for probably close to an hour about, this is going to affect everything. You don't understand.
That makes me cringe just to think about it.
I know.
And that might have just answered my friend Dan Mabry, who's watching. He has a podcast as well, which is, what is the worst tattoo you've ever seen? That has to be up there. I mean, even if it didn't actually get made.
No, so it did. So here,
no way.
So the guy is saying, no, I want it. These two stupid girls with him are like, he knows what he wants. Like, this is his life, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my gosh.
And I know, it's so tragic. And he's dead set, like, I'm going to do it tonight. And so my mentor said that he would do it. And I was setting up with him, and he's talking to me about it. And he's like, sometimes people want things and you can say no, and they can go next door and get it from somebody who doesn't care at all. And they will blast it in big and fat and heavy. Like, there are tattoo artists who like to punish people for their bad decisions sometimes. Like,
oh my gosh.
there are not a lot of rules in this industry. So you
it's
really
like the Wild
have
West.
to be, you really have to be so trusting of the people that you go to, and people don't know. They're like, it's a job. You work here. You can do this. So do it. And so anyway, so he did it. And he was like, when you have to do stuff like this, you don't have to. Like, that's the nice thing. Yeah, it's always your choice. But if you decide to do things like this, you have the ability to do it as like thin and easy to deal with later on versus somebody else who is way less qualified or cares way less, and then what do you do?
Yeah, and that's a good point in itself.
Yeah,
making tattoos that will likely get removed and making them to where it's easier. I mean, that's something I've never even thought about.
Yeah,
never even thought about.
I had another tattoo artist telling me about some guy coming into the shop that he worked at and wanting to get a swastika on his neck.
No way.
And, you don't know what people's lives are. People are the way that they are for a million reasons. And so he might feel that way right now, but who knows what the rest of his life will be. He might not always be that way. Yeah. And this guy was telling me that because this Nazi guy wants to get a swastika, he carved it into his neck. And it's like, I just can't imagine.
No, you can't change it.
What would make me hate a person or my craft so much that I would use it to punish people, and in ways that you can't get rid of. You can't get rid of scarring with tattoos, even if you laser out the ink, which is not like a reliable option for most people. And so just to have something that even if you cover it up, it'll be there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very unethical in a lot of ways.
That's amazing. I mean, you're flooding my mind with all these questions that I've never thought about before. And this is the reason. So we have a mutual friend, Shane Swore, who is the reason why I even reached out to you. I was telling him about this podcast, and he was like, "Oh man, what's the premise?" I said, "I invite interesting people on to share their stories. They're basically all business owners or entrepreneurs." But he sent me a list, and you were at the top of it. And so now I'm understanding. I mean, I can just imagine standing next to you in person and just taking it all in. I know we only have a few minutes here on the podcast, but there's so many. There's so many interesting questions. You did mention one thing, which is being a tattoo artist without tattoos. And I can only imagine it's probably the same premise as a skinny cook. Don't trust a skinny cook.
God. Oh my God, you cannot even comprehend how many times that has been said to me. Well, you never trust a skinny chef. And it's like, why? Is their education and skills not valid because of their dietary lifestyle? Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Is that
when
not
has what
just
someone looked
totally
like,
the equal comparison?
Yeah, when has what somebody looked like mattered more than like what their capabilities are when you're talking about their job?
Yeah.
And who cares? It'd be like going to a plastic surgeon and being like, whoa, you don't have giant fake tits, so how could I possibly trust you to know how to do mine? And or like,
it's just not fair.
Like a male gynecologist. How could any male gynecologist possibly have valid training or experience if they don't have a vagina? So it's ridiculous. And when I was an apprentice, you asked me earlier, how do you like do your first tattoo? And when I started, my apprenticeship was like a trial period of maybe 2 months where I wasn't licensed with the state apprentice learning how to tattoo here. I just was kind of going every day and helping clean or draw or do different things just to see if I'm dedicated enough to go, because you pay to put your paperwork in and like it matters. So
of course.
So during that time, like just a couple weeks in, I've just been randomly coming to this tattoo shop, and the owner, it was like slow, and the owner was like, "Come on, we're gonna go do a tattoo," and there's nobody in there. So I was like, "What?" He was like, "Pick something. We're gonna go do a tattoo right now. You're gonna do a tattoo." And I was like, "I'm not qualified to do that. It's been like 3 weeks. I don't what?" And he had me do a tattoo on his leg. Both of his legs are covered in like apprentice first tattoos.
That's incredible.
I know. And
what a bold guy.
And so he yelled at me the whole time, and I was such a nervous wreck, and it was awful. I probably was so sweaty by the end. It wasn't even like a big thing. It was just this little thing on his knee. And at the end, he was like, calm down. You didn't do that bad. It's really, really important that you understand how serious this is. This isn't a game. This isn't like a thing you just do. It's permanent. There's blood. It's people's bodies. There's diseases. Like, it matters a lot. So, it's very serious. And he was like, "You're not going to do another tattoo again for months, but I just wanted you to understand that." And I'm really glad that he did that, because it did affect like the rest of my apprenticeship, until I started tattooing, that this matters so much. And I like, you watch a ton of tattoos before you start doing it, or you're supposed to. And I watched different people be apprentices, and it's like, you're supposed to watch them tattoo. So they're just like sitting there, like riding it out. And you have to really watch, because a lot of tattoo artists aren't great teachers. They're not like telling you what they're doing. It's your job to just watch and kind of figure it out. So figure out all the ways and whys they're stretching the skin different ways. Like, your skin is different everywhere on your body. Like, from your elbow ditch to your inner bicep to your armpit, the skin types in just those 3 spots are so different from each other. They're so different to work. So it's a lot to learn. And if you're not like really, really paying attention,
Yeah.
you'll get the gist of it. You'll be able to like run a machine on skin. It's not rocket science, but
Yeah.
you
Do you
won't
want to
really
just get the
understand
gist of it,
why.
or do you want to
Yeah,
master it?
exactly. And
That's
it's a
incredible.
lot of work to with anything to really learn how to do something. And
Yeah.
this isn't like other art forms. Like your canvas is moving and alive and your machine is moving and you are like all these parts are alive and you're controlling all of them to punch a design at like 100 beats a second to inject a design into people's skin. It's crazy. And so many people are like, I could just do that. I'll just order a machine and like start tattooing my friends in my garage.
Yeah.
And
We're not embroidering shirts
what kind of
here.
friend are you? Don't do that.
Yeah. That is incredible. You're making me
Yeah.
anxious just thinking
I
about it.
know.
And so I'm a pilot, and I'm more anxious about what you're telling me and just imagining that than I was when I did my first landing. I mean, it's both life, it's life altering.
Yeah.
To
Well, and you probably were given extensive training and testing before being able to fly a plane.
Well, I had
And
an experience a lot like yours,
yeah.
where the first time I went up, he was like, "All right, land it," and of course I had help, and he was yelling at me, but at the same time, when we got on the ground, he said almost the exact same thing that
Mhm.
your master tattoo guy said to you, which is this is serious. We're not up
Yeah.
here to play. And so it's a great point.
It's
Dan
fun,
also
but
asked.
it's not a game.
No, I agree. Dan wanted to know, and I do too, why tattoo yourself and how do you get the confidence to do that? Because, and before you answer, give us your Instagram handle so that people can go watch what I watched last night, because it was by far one of the most impressive things I've seen.
It's just my name. It's just at Brooklyn_Kelly. So BROOKELYN_KELLY.
Dan, go watch it. It's incredible. Why do it
um,
yourself and how do you get the confidence?
why do it myself? For a couple reasons. One, being an artistic style choice. Like nobody in the area that I live in does the style that I specifically want. Oh my god. Okay. So that's part of it. The other part is I sit very badly for other people to do like anything. I am a very
Interesting.
nervous laugher and I get so panicky and anxious and I can't stop laughing. I can't hold still and I don't like it. Like getting my blood drawn, getting a piercing, going to the chiropractor.
Yep.
I just have a
Squirming
really, really,
around.
really hard time. Yeah, I'm super ticklish and I'm just super sensitive and I don't sit well for other people. And when I was learning, even though I didn't have any tattoos, in the very beginning of my towards the beginning of my apprenticeship, I learned about bloodlining, which is a tattoo technique that you use even as like a full tattoo artist. But it's where you just are running the machine and the needle with water instead of ink, and different times you might use it in real life application is like if your stencils may be coming off or just to mark things out because
Yeah.
it'll be like a scratch, so it'll be there but there's nothing actually in it.
Interesting.
So if you do a whole tattoo with just water on yourself when you're learning, then it'll heal away. So when I was an apprentice, I would tattoo myself all the time. And just to learn depth, just to learn handling different parts of my skin. But I was a 19-year-old girl. I had not ever thought about being a tattoo artist. So I wasn't just going to get a tattoo or put ink into these tattoos of me trying to practice on myself. So it was funny to me to get so much crap from people for so many years about not having tattoos. Like you don't even know what you're doing. How could you even know if you don't have any? And it's like, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty dedicated to this craft.
Yeah. As far as water
And
tattoos
I'm
go, you
also
probably have
wearing
as many as
clothes, so
anybody.
like, I didn't even know that I don't have any. What?
I said, as far as water
I didn't hear you
tattoos go,
say.
you probably had as many as anybody.
Exactly. I
That
do
is
like big
incredible.
things on my stomach, or, like
I
yeah.
didn't even know that was
So
a
that
thing.
was also why. Yeah, nobody does. Nobody does it. even with having like trying to teach people myself, I encourage them to do that when they're learning. And I've had other people in this industry tell me how dumb that is. Like, why would you bother doing it? Just tell them to put ink in it. And it's like, but that's dumb. Why would I tell them to do that? This is their body. I also know that they might not work out in this industry. So I'm not going to pressure them to permanently alter their appearance just for my preference in how they look. Like, that's crazy. So, and especially to say that because you have tattoos, you could be like a scratcher, like a gross, careless scratcher, but you look the part, so somehow people will choose you over me in plenty of situations, and that's fine. But like, to me, having people be aggressive over what I look like, it's like, I mean, do you want to see my portfolio? No, they never do. They don't actually care. They just, I guess, really prefer what they imagine people to look like. And to me, it's as ridiculous as going to the dentist and the dentist walks out and you're like, whoa, you don't look like what I imagine a dentist to look like. I don't feel comfortable with this anymore. How could you even think you could be a dentist when you don't look anything like a dentist? Like, what? That's crazy. So, yeah, I don't remember what the other question was.
No, it's okay. That you answer both of them, in my opinion.
No,
why tattoo yourself, and how do you get the confidence?
Yeah. So I had tattooed, like, I'm very comfortable, like, working on myself because I've done it a million times. And it is definitely, like, planning to make sure that I can access the area that I'm trying to tattoo. Like, this tattoo was probably the hardest one for me to do because it's like,
I can imagine.
Such squishy,
your arm doesn't really
squishy skin. Yeah, so it's so squishy and like you can't well, but I got it. It's just slow.
I could ask you a million more questions, and I wish we had time. I know is this your first podcast?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I talk so much too. I'm so sorry.
No. I promised you when we talked earlier. I said it seems like a long time, but it's going to go by like that, and it did because we've been 32 minutes on this thing, and I have a million more questions, but we'll have to save it for part 2. One final thing: how can they get in touch with you if they're in Burlington, Vermont, and they just decide they want to get a tattoo, and they want to talk to somebody with the tattoo morals that you have? Because the integrity part is what has stuck out to me more than anything in this conversation, and I never thought about how important it is. But you have just brought that home. How can they get in touch with you or do business with you?
So my personal Instagram, Brooklyn Kelly, or my shop is called The Altar, or The Altar on Church Street, because it's on Church Street. So the website is thealtaronchurch.com, and there's a ton of stuff there, or my Instagram at Brooklyn_Kelly. Thank you so much for having me on this. I really, really appreciate you asking me to do this. I'm sorry I talked so much.
No, this is your episode. If I do my job, most people don't even know I was here for this. It's all about you. So thank you for sharing a little bit about you and a little bit of insight into your world with us, because it's a whole different environment that most people don't get a backstage pass to. So I really appreciate it. If we can ever do anything for you, or if I can personally, I'm more than happy to be at your service.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
You too. And for everybody watching, Brooklyn Kelly with The Altar on Church. Go find her on Instagram. Check it out. And she is one of the most talented tattoo artists that I've ever seen. Thanks for tuning in. Dan Mabry, thanks for the questions. And we'll catch you guys next time in the jungle. I'm Hamilton Winters, strategist with Liger Partners. Y'all have a great day.